There is a facts of life in relation to people who are psychopaths or have psychopathic tendencies. They gravitate towards positions of control. Doesn't that make sense? This is how you get the psychopathic casting couch thing, which is real. That's having worked in Hollywood with Microsoft money. I can tell you it's real. It's part of the culture. It is offered up. And psychopaths gravitate towards CEO positions. Again, same thing, power. So, of course, they gravitate towards politics. Jordan Peterson made this point about what someone somewhere, I think it's James Lindsay, started this phrase, the woke right. I've yet to hear a cogent explanation of what the woke right means. Maybe James Lindsay could actually provide that one day, which would be convenient. He's a great guy, by the way. I just don't like the woke right thing because don't see a cogent explanation for it. Jordan Peterson talked about this and woke right psychopaths getting into the Republican Party.
I think that virtualization has enabled the psychopaths.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, well,
without a doubt.
That's a terrible thing because the psychopathic types, they're always the death of everything. Like I'm seeing this come up on the right now. So imagine this. I've been working on a new theory of political psychopathology, and I like it quite a lot.
Is this where the term the woke right comes in?
Yeah, well, Lindsay is pointing at that, but he hasn't got the diagnosis exactly right. So it isn't woke. That's not the issue. It's not exactly.
I think
one
what
level.
they're talking about is like similar types of behavior.
He is talking about that. Yeah, no.
But
What he's pointing.
Woke just lets you clarify in your head. Oh, it's like that.
Yeah, but the problem is
it's like Antifa.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that argument is predicated on the claim that the ideas are the problem, like the woke ideas, for example, on the right or the left. But that's not the problem.
I just have to stop. Can someone please tell me where the Antifa type groups on the right are? I spend a lot of time around the right, a ton. I live in one of the most conservative states in the nation, in the most conservative area of that state. And I don't see any of this. So let's let Peterson get to the problem as he sees it. Obviously, he's on with Joe Rogan.
The problem is that 4 to 5% of the population, something like that, is cluster B, that's the DSM-5 terms, histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, psychopathic, or they have dark tetrad traits. They're Machiavellian, they're sadistic. That's about 4%. Okay, so the question is, how do these people maneuver? And the answer is they go to where the power is and they adopt those ideas. And
okay, so I could kind of see where you could take this into people who get a huge kick out of liberal tears. So you see some sad video, someone's lost their job, they work for their government, and the kids are going hungry, and they didn't plan well, and they didn't save money, so their kids are going hungry, and they're afraid. And I can see people who have these tendencies go, oh, cry more. Soak in your own tears. I love it. I love watching you cry. So I can see a bit of that. I can see a bit of people getting a bunch of glee, seeing, let's say, a family of illegal immigrants kicked out of the country. Now, I look at this from a perspective of justice. Hey, you were in the country illegally. When you're cruel, when you're lenient when you should be firm, you'll eventually be cruel when you should be kind, the Hebrew saying. So, yeah, that's sad. It sucks. It's painful. And I can look at that and say, man, that's got to be scary and awful, particularly for those children, and my heart bleeds for them. And I pray that they can legally get back in and get in line if they're good, contributing citizens. But where I can see other people look at it, go, yes! Oh, I want to soak in the tears, and I'm celebrating the tears, and now I get to cause the tears. Okay, fair enough. Now, there's the woke right. But where's the organization doing this? I don't see the argument for there is a right-wing Antifa, nor do I think Peterson gets it. Yes, he's describing some psychological terms and cluster B, narcissism. This is a big, big catchphrase these days, cluster B narcissist. In fact, you'll see arguments between men who are gender defiant, arguing with women who are not gender defiant, and they'll say, you're a cluster B narcissist, and they say this back and forth to one another. So the point, though, is this. Psychopaths and people who are spiritually captured are almost indistinguishable. Now, sometimes people are, quote, just mentally ill. And so they have this malignant narcissism. And sometimes that's the case. But tell me who Satan has a good time using. What Peterson misses is the profound difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. Psychopaths have more fun psychopathing within the Democrat Party because psychopathic behavior is celebrated and promoted. And because their job is to create other psychopaths. And it's working. You don't think you can make people psychopathic? Sure, you can get people to a point where half or more of Democrats believe that it is okay to assassinate President Trump. So let me get to an example of this, or an example or two of this, where it's easier to see this for me as a sin problem, because I believe you can't find, in the Democrat Party, you can't find a major policy stand on which they stand with God. Not a single one. So yes, psychopaths like that because they get to lord their power over other people. And incidentally, Jesus said, don't lord your power over other people. Psychopaths and Satanists, there's a nexus there. So I'll show you this in a second, but let's cleanse our minds for one moment because we're going to get into some heavy stuff. Cleansing your mind is to say, let's think of all the things that are pure and good and just, and let's think on those and let's meditate on those. But while you're meditating on that, think about this. Think about cleaning the temple. You probably are using soap from a company who is probably led by some psychopaths. Maybe they make their products in China from slave labor. Maybe they test them on animals in cruel ways. None of that happens at Allen Soaps. Allen Soaps is made in America. It's all natural, no chemicals in it, and it's made by a family with 3 generations, going on 4, by the way. 3 generations going on 4 of soap making expertise. And the goal of the company is to, by virtue of selling excellent world-class soap, to employ people like Allen. 14, he's been through 18 operations, is effectively nonverbal due to autism, and he works there every single day. He also invents fragrances of soap, but it's not just him, it's 2 other people now who the world would toss out, cluster B narcissists. Oh, they can't contribute. So choose where you buy your soap and where you cleanse the temple. Go to allensoaps.com/Todd. Get 10% off all their products there. That's allensoaps.com/Todd. This isn't the most exciting video because it's not video. It's Brett Kavanaugh and a lawyer from Montgomery County. And here's what they're talking about. There's this strange idea that parents should be able to say to the government schools, actually, I'm not going to allow you to show my children what is in any estimation, any even moderately skeptical estimation, pornography. And the admission here is so psychopathic.
In the country has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
So again, I think what's in the record is that with respect to these books as they were deployed in the classroom.
So this is Alan Schoenfeld's attorney for Montgomery County Public Schools.
There was high absenteeism in some schools. For example, dozens of students being opted out in, I think Mr. Baxter said the average size of an elementary school in Montgomery County is 700 students. So each grade is 125. If you have dozens of students walking out, making arrangements for those students to have adequate space and supervision and alternative instruction, I think is infeasible.
But they do it for all sorts of other opt-outs.
They don't do it for all sorts of other opt-outs. There's a limited universe of things that students can opt out from. The Family Life and Healthy Sexuality curriculum stands alone. It is mandated by the state. It is something where you are able to predict precisely when the curriculum is going to be deployed. There's a
It's the most similar substantively to what we have here, and there's an opt-out allowed there. I guess I'm not understanding why Montgomery County School Board stands alone. I think in the country, you can tell me if there's another school board that's done something like this.
I apologize.
Both the kind of books that are being used and prohibiting opt-outs. And I guess I'm just not understanding. The whole goal, I think, of some of our religion precedents is to look for the win-win, to look for the situation where you can respect the religious beliefs and accommodate the religious beliefs while the state or city or whatever it may be can pursue its goals. And here, they're not asking you to change what's taught in the classroom. They're not asking you to change that at all. A lot of the rhetoric suggests that they might have, that they were trying to do that, but that's not what they're trying to do.
It's not. And if you heard the admission of the lawyer, here's what he's saying. We had too many kids opting out. We can't allow opt-outs because too many kids were getting opted out. Jordan Peterson would look at this and say, hey, you know, it's psychopathic. And psychopaths want to teach kids perverse sex acts at young ages. I concur. It's also a massive sin issue. Massive. Jesus is so very clear on causing the little ones to stumble on the way to him. He makes a promise. If you do that, you're going to wish you'd been tossed into the ocean with a millstone tied around your neck. That's a promise from God. And funny thing, when God makes a promise, he keeps it. Now, they can't redeem themselves, but they can take the free gift of redemption from Jesus and his blood. If they do that, then that sin is removed. It's forgotten. But psychopaths want to be around a place where they can be openly psychopathic. How much fun is that? But so do sin makers. Sin makers. No, disciple makers. And everybody is making disciples. If you have any position of influence, you're making disciples of something. Here's another example. The Epstein stuff. Dick Durbin is not going to seek re-election, and this came after Dick Durbin announced opposition to something related to the Epstein files.
I understand you made some statements about the Jeffrey Epstein flight logs. I had not spoken to you one time about this issue.
Since we're in the business of issuing subpoenas now, here are a few more that I've filed. A subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate to provide the flight logs for his private plane, given the numerous allegations of human trafficking and sexual abuse surrounding Mr. Epstein.
Durbin was against that. That was Marsha Blackburn calling him out for being against that. Am I saying Durbin's a psychopath? I don't know him well enough. I know that Epstein was. And I know that he gravitated towards other powerful men. But what else was he? He was a man who allowed deep, abiding sin in his life. And in my judgment, given the evidence that we have, he was a sin maker. He was a disciple maker of truly perverse ideas of eugenics that is repopulating the earth with his seed and probably the seed of other powerful men. The Democrat Party stands alone in welcoming psychopaths and in policies that stand uniquely against God. I think Jordan Peterson misses that part.